Almost there, everyone. Hi, everyone. I'm almost there. Just give me 1 second. I just noticed one other thing I need to fix. And that's this chat window. All right, good. All right, awesome. So how's everyone doing today? Thanks for joining today's live stream. As you know, I'm going to have 3 fantastic photographers with me today. Peter Forsgard, Robin Wong, Matti Sulanto, and then I also have a surprise guest, Jimmy Cheng from Red 35. He was very kind to join us last minute, short notice, so I really appreciate that. Someone directly, just do the usual at Peter, then ask a question, or at, Matti and ask a question. And then I'll moderate that and ask them directly. And they'll respond to you, via the live stream. So without further ado, let's bring them onto the screen. And there they are. So somebody in the chat room, let me know if you can see everybody, because, this streaming, even though I've done it a dozen times, I've never done multiple live stream. And also, guess who's here in the chat room? Emily, she from Micro Four Nerds. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to join us live because she's out of the house, but she did agree to come in the chat room. So if you have questions for Micro Four Nerds or Emily at Micro Four Nerds, I'm sure she'll be happy to help you as well. All right.
Oh, hi, Emily.
Yay, Emily!
Yeah,
Cool.
I know. Everybody is really excited for Emily to be here, and Red 35, and Peter, and Matti, and Robin. All of these guys are way ahead of me in terms of photography. I try to focus on just, beginners, like how to format a memory card or push the shutter button. But, these guys...
I'm still doing that. I'm still doing that wrong.
But as you know, these guys are all very, very well respected in the photographic community, especially for the Micro Four Thirds cameras. So I'm going to go ahead. Let's see. Okay, thanks, Zoltan. So you do see all of us. So I'm just going to start with try to hold off any questions you have for the group here until I get through my parts, and then because if it's just going to scroll away and I'm not going to see it. But let me go ahead and start with Robin. Some of you may not know this, but Robin was actually worked for Olympus for a little while as a consultant. Working with their customers and then research and development. And, it's kind of curious while you were there, if you could elaborate a little bit more what you did there, and then I have a couple questions about that.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My time in Olympus was from 2013 to 2017. I worked there for 4 years, Olympus Malaysia. Specifically, I was the product specialist. I was the product consumer trainings. I conducted consumer events. We did a lot of touch and try events where people actually come to try the Olympus products. I had to liaise with photographers, people like Ming Tian in Malaysia. I also have to talk to the media. Basically also do some training for the dealers, the people who sell the cameras at the camera front. So anything that has to do with the camera, it goes through me. And I was the person to go to when I was in Olympus, Malaysia. And pretty much that's what I did.
Oh, okay, great. So when you were working at Olympus, I've always wondered, like, when you get all of this feedback from, all the social media, like on YouTube channels and stuff, when people are reviewing the cameras, and then you get customer feedback as well. I mean, does Olympus really take all of that into account when they're developing their cameras, or do they already have a vision, that they're going to go with, or what was your kind of feeling about that? Do you feel like they had that line of communication?
So we do get a lot of feedback. For my side, is coming from social media, but we also have the service team, with the camera repair service center, the official service center for Olympus Malaysia. They also get a lot of feedback. We do send the feedback directly to Japan, and I think that the R&D team in Japan, they actively listens to the consumers. But how many of the feedback gets implemented and how they implement that, I have no idea, because I was just in Olympus, Malaysia. I have no direct connection to Tokyo.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you did a really good video on why you think they're not selling as many cameras. Not just Olympus, but the camera industry in general. And I was wondering if you could just kind of, summarize that a little bit about what you think will, sort of maybe turn that around, or, what we can do as photographers and creators, and we have this social platform to sort of, help the photography industry make a comeback or revival.
I think in terms of camera sales, it will definitely get worse. The camera sales will decline. As we all know, it's mostly due to smartphones, and we can't really do anything much about that. But to me, I think for us photographers and for most people who are enjoying the cameras that they use, is to go back to the heart of photography. Like, ask yourself, why are you doing photography in the first place? Why did you pick up the camera in the first place? And just enjoy it as a hobby, right? The more you shoot, the more we keep the camera alive, and the more we keep photography going. We as photographers, we have sort of like a responsibility to carry on the torch and inspire other people to pick up photography, and hopefully they'll be interested as well.
Yeah, that's great. Because whenever I watch your channel, you're always smiling, you're always so happy. I've referred to you as like the happiest photographer on earth many times to my viewers.
Sorry, Rob.
Yeah.
Just because the conversation is going saying that I have an echo.
Yes.
So I'm just going to ask, Jimmy, is your speaker on?
Well, yes, because I don't have a mic, so I'm using the speaker. But this shouldn't affect.
Do you have an earphone? Do you have an earphone?
I don't have the Bluetooth earphone, so that may have some delay. So I'd rather not to use it.
Okay.
Okay. Because else all of us will echo in this live stream because of the speaker.
Actually, hang on. I do have a headphone.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, Matti. You're a Lumix ambassador, and so we're kind of ganging up on you a little bit, right? But me, I'm not an ambassador visionary at all, so you and I are really on the same team. But I saw in your profile that you do corporate portraiture and things like that professionally, in addition to your channel where you share, your knowledge. But I was wondering, when you do your corporate portraits and things, what's your typical like setup for gear, and what additional gear do you bring, like flashes, or do you go to their location, or do you go to a studio? What's that like to actually be a corporate photographer, to do corporate portraits?
Hi everybody. Yes, corporate portraits. I think one of the first things you have to know is how to handle these people, because they are usually very busy, and some of them are somehow drama queens also. They want to play more important than they actually are. So you have to know how to handle these people. That's one thing you have to know. But I usually go to their office or wherever, and I have a portable background usually, unless I do like environmental portraits where I show some of the interiors what they have. And most of the time I have three lights with me, flashes usually, and if I do like face shots I usually use a Mark IV third camera, but sometimes if they are like larger groups or environmental portraits where I show more of the environment, I probably use a full frame camera just to make sure I have enough information there for my client, because I never know exactly what they want to do with the files afterwards.
Okay. And you know, something that kind of struck me one time was in one of my videos you commented about, you know, when I was in my black and white photography, I took a picture of some old truck and I said, oh, this looks like something from the 40s, you know. And you said, no, that's like a 1960s Chevy C10. So I was wondering, like, do you have like some, like, is that your hobby? Like, are you into cars? Because when I look back through your old 500px pictures and stuff, you have lots of pictures of cars, like Porsches and taxis and all kinds of things.
Yeah, I'm not anymore, but I used to be very much into cars. At one point I had 4 cars, and I still love classic cars especially, but at the moment I don't own any cars, and probably I hope I don't have to own a car anymore. I like to change my life every 15, 20 years, and I changed my life a few years ago, and I left the cars behind, and now I'm doing something else, because you only have one life. You gotta try different things.
Wow.
But you can't have everything at the same time, of course, so you gotta change.
Okay.
Completely.
I knew there was something, because that was spot on. I looked up Chevy C10s and I was like, man, how did Matti know that? Like, it's not even a finished car or whatever. Well, that's cool. Okay, Peter.
Right. First, I have to say I have a. Is the audio okay with the viewers? Because I have a terrible echo in my.
I hear you okay, but I'm not live, so to speak.
Yeah, I don't have echo either, so it seems to be.
No, me neither. No,
I don't have echo as well.
Yeah, no, someone's asking if my speakers are off. Yeah, my speaker's off. I'm using strictly the earphone here. I think, yeah. There's no
speakers on my end as well.
So there's a terrible echo. Is it everybody's got an echo?
No.
I'm the only one okay.
Hey, they say Robin has no echo. Hi, David.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Do I have an echo?
I do have a terrible echo.
I have no echo.
Oh, hold on. I see.
I wonder what. Rob and Robin are good.
I think I fixed it. Okay, so the echo should be gone now. Is the echo gone on your end, Peter?
No, it
Everyone sounds okay.
It's still there.
Peter is worse.
No, it isn't. No, it hasn't. It's still here.
Okay, let me just check. I'm sorry, everyone. Like I said, I don't see anything else I can change here.
Can someone comment if I have echo?
Yeah, does Matti have an echo? Oh, somebody said the echo's gone now. That's good. Okay, I think I fixed it. Because when I brought Jimmy in at the last second there, I forgot to turn his mic off on my end, so that's why there was an echo. But okay. Peter. Okay. So Peter, you know, he's also a Olympus visionary, and he's actually published a lot of books on photographies or co-authored books on photography, and does a lot of training, and then of course his professional work as well. But you know, I was wondering, you know, you've been in photography, you know, for a long time, and did a lot of teaching. I was kind of curious what you found to be sort of the most difficult concept for beginners to understand about photography, if it's the gear or if it's something about the photography itself. You know, just what are your thoughts on that? What do you think most people struggle with when they get started?
As I said, I have a horrible echo, so I hope I understood on heard the question right, but it's actually the most hardest thing for a lot of people to learn about photography is actually the exposure, ISO, aperture, shutter speed stuff. That's usually very hard for many people to understand. The combination. It's funny because I think it's one of the most simplest things, but it's still one of the hardest thing to explain to people when you teach people. Teach a lot of people that are kind of like forced to photograph as a part of their job. They do in communications, or they do in fields. They have to record something and document something, and it's actually quite hard.
Yeah.
To do that, because there are a lot of people that have the eye, but they don't understand a clue about the technique, which is, of course, sometimes you actually need to know those things if you want to be better at photography.
Right. Yeah.
So it's funny that the basics are actually the hardest part, and what I also see a big problem is usually if you are from, let's say, from technical side, you usually know the technique, but you might not have the eye. But then there are a lot of people that have the eye that have no clue about the technique, but they still get better pictures than the ones that know the technique. So it's always kind of like a two-way street in that sense. So if like I had once, and I hope the one is not listening, that one guy in a group who had all the possible gear you can actually put in a bag.
Oops.
And he knew quite the assignment, because he had all these explanations why not, which is, well, yeah. But I don't know if the others agree about that. I don't know I know Matti has been teaching at least, and Robin. But what about you, Jimmy? Have you been teaching? Do you agree on that?
I have. Well, I think my experience is usually depending on how they see photography, because obviously every eyes are very, very different, and so people might take the wrong approach. That's how I see it usually, because they're usually looking at different things and not consistent enough to realize that's what they want to shoot. Technically, of course, there are certain things they can brush up and bring up to the and become a view. But yeah, artistically, I think that's something they need to focus and be basically understand themselves, who they really are. I think that's the message always trying to get to them.
Thanks, thank you. And Peter,
sorry, Rob, I took your.
Oh, it's okay. No, that's fine. That's fine. I just
Yeah. Cool.
My live stream is kind of jumping all over the place. On the technical side, I feel like I'm maybe the bandwidth here is not quite enough of my house, maybe. But anyhow, I hope you guys will bear with sort of the technical difficulties I'm having. I appreciate that. Okay, Jimmy. So you do a lot of wedding photography. And I was wondering if you could tell me maybe what you think the highs and lows are of wedding photography. Like, oops, sorry.
Okay, well, there are definitely a lot of highs and lows. Okay, it's not for the faint-hearted, let's put it that way, because it is long hours. It is very hard work physically and mentally. People don't see it, but you are. And also is that you are actually the commander for the wedding day, not the bride and groom.
Really?
One thing that never people don't quite understand, because when it comes to photography, or when you arrive at the wedding, you are actually in command of absolute everything, and you are probably the only person who has all the plans from all angles, because you have to work with all the other professionals there, and the bride and groom will give you all the details. And as a photographer, to make the wedding photography successful, you got to take control of all the situations. And not only that, you still at the same time have to relax the bride and groom, making sure they are comfortable, they're not overstressed, so that they can still smile at you and take a photo. So it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I had no idea, because I was going to ask you, you ever run into like a bridezilla who thinks they're in control and in command?
I'm
That's why I stopped wedding photography.
I hope there's no ladies listening here, but but I can guarantee you all of them are.
All of them are bridezillas.
It's all because it's their important day. They are worried, that something's going to go wrong. And I mean, I wish I can totally understand that. They want it to be the perfect day for them.
Yeah.
And, so I'm happy with that. So I have my way of dealing with it, and so it's usually fine.
Okay, because I was, I just can't imagine. I would never do a wedding. I wouldn't even want to be a backup photographer. I tell you, it's and the long hours I can imagine. You got to get there hours early, and you're probably there hours after. And I'm sure, like Emily from Micro Four Nerds, she's giving some feedback there too as well, because she does a lot of weddings as well. Okay, very good. And generally speaking, in your career, any of you can answer this. When you do your professional work, does anybody ask you what kind of camera are you using?
Sorry?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say, what I was saying was, when during your professional career, when you go out and you get clients, do they ever ask you, what kind of camera are you using?
I'll go first.
Yeah.
So far, most of my clients who come to me they actually see my portfolio first, either come from my website or it's by recommendation from my previous clients. So they are already okay with my work. They hire me for the kind of work that I do. So pretty much they don't care about what camera I'm using. But I also don't do something that is technically very difficult. Like I don't shoot for a large billboard or like super large prints. So pretty much the kind of photography I do are portraits. I do weddings as well, event photography, a little bit of lifestyle shots, and pretty much that's it. And so far, Micro Four Nerds is sufficient for all the things that I'm doing. So no one questioned me before.
Okay. Now, how about the rest of you? Is that pretty much how it goes, or?
Yeah, that's about the one. I don't remember that anyone ever has asked me what camera do you use.
I remember when we still used to shoot film, there were certain requirements back then, but that's a long time ago.
Yeah.
But during the last 15 years at least, no one ever asked me what kind of camera I'm using.
And Jimmy, the same?
There are a couple of times. They weren't questioning what brand I was using, but more about the size. Because to some people who may not be familiar with the camera worlds, they would simply remember cameras were big, especially professional ones.
Right.
So
right.
When I turned up with a couple of small cameras, they were just wondering whether I was just a guest instead of being a professional.
Oh my goodness.
I remember similar incidents when I had my small mirrorless camera. Somebody would ask, "Oh, is that your camera? Is it so small?" But they never, when they were contacting me, then they would never ask what kind of camera I'm using.
Okay.
It used to be back in the days. I used to carry a lot of gear because the more gear you had, the bigger bill you could send. That doesn't work anymore.
That's funny. Okay, that's awesome. Thanks, guys. Let's see. This was a question. I'm just going to ask you two questions that people submitted before the live stream. And whoever thinks they have the best answer, just let me know, because I cannot answer this kind of question, because I would be the last person you want to ask. But basically, it says here, what's your experience with your image backup publishing and workflow, right? Basically, your backup plan. Because, you know, I had my hard drive crash, you know, 2 weeks ago, and I lost 3 weeks worth of work. Fortunately, that's all I lost because I didn't have my backup software on. But who has a very rigorous backup solution, you know, at in your office or wherever you work? Do you...
I can start.
Okay, go ahead, Matti.
I have a very simple, like one backup, like two similar mirrored drives of all my drives, and that's it. I also used the Backblaze system, and but I don't like it very much. Especially, I also had a hard drive crash some weeks ago, and then when I started downloading the backups from Backblaze server, it was not that easy because you have to get them piece by piece. You can't just hit download and wait for all the terabytes to come down. You have to download them in small pieces, and that was kind of annoying. I didn't like it at all.
Wow, and that was a cloud solution?
Yeah, it's called Backblaze. I think it's quite well-known, popular backup service.
Okay.
But here in my office, I have like 2 of every drive I have, and that's it.
And that's your primary source of backup, is just internal. Does everybody do everything internal, or does anybody use like a cloud solution?
I don't use cloud solutions because they're usually quite slow, because, you know, the internet connections might be quite slow. But what I have, you know, two hard drives, and then I always keep if I'm shooting something for clients, I always keep the latest pictures or the photos in the memory cards, and I don't use them after I've sent the bill to the client. Then I take the memory cards back in production.
Oh, okay. That's a good idea.
I have 3 actually.
So you just don't erase the memory cards until you got the money.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. How about you, Jimmy? What do you do?
After that, they are their responsibility.
Right. What do you do? Anything special? Do you do everything in house, or do you use anything on the cloud, Jimmy?
No. Probably similar to Peter. Cloud is too slow for me.
Yeah.
Especially in upload cycles. I actually do shoot a lot, and because I think on average every year probably produce, well, when I mean in total quantity terms, and I would probably shoot about 150 to 200,000 photos a year.
Wow.
And that's quite a sum. So cloud solution is just not possible for that sort of frequency and quantity. So I use physical backup, especially I use mobile drive, like actual physical drive. Actually, I actually do have one here I can show you. Because I'm in Hong Kong at the moment, so if you guys don't know, so I'm on location working. So these are my portable backup drives. So I have 2 simultaneously. They're all rugged drives, so they're all kind of like bash proof and then quite handy. So basically, whenever I finish something on the day, at the end I will just put one drive and then just back up to another.
Okay, so you keep 2 copies on,
two, and then
right?
Two copies, and I will usually, when I'm back home, I will put the hard drive in separate locations, so I know that one is safe, even if one place got burger or whatever. And but in here, I don't have that luxury, but I'll put one in the hotel safe, and then one will be just lying around.
Okay. All right, so yeah, and Emily chimed in from Micro for Nerds. Pretty much the same thing. She just keeps 2 hard drives, and then she says she has an unlimited G Suite's cloud storage. But yeah, that's so she uses cloud storage. It looks like. Yeah, the cloud storage, I looked at the pricing for that. I don't know. I'm small time, right? I'm like $20 a month for 2 terabytes. I mean, I've got about 20 terabytes on my desk alone of stuff. I just after I I just label
I'm not
them.
sure about you guys. In the UK, Amazon does offer unlimited photo storage, including raw images. So that's unlimited, and which I would normally use, but then it just, like I said, the internet can be very slow for uploading that sort of quantity,
Right.
and so I never really make use of it actually.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Can I ask Jimmy something?
Yeah.
You said you take quite a lot of images. Have you ever broken the shutter with that amount of images? You should have
Sorry?
it.
I lost there.
I'll ask you if you have broken your shutter on your camera.
Because of the amount of images you take.
Well, lucky no, not yet. And but I do swap cameras. So that's the total amount.
Okay. All right. So let me see. I'm going to back up a little bit. There was a question from one of the viewers here. From Best Shots Caitlin. It says, Sunday I have a wedding in the very dark church. I'm not allowed to use flash there. What ISO recommend for the EM1 Mark II with a 12 to 40 Pro f2.8, a 40 to 150 f2.8, a 40 f1.8? So he's got very fast lenses across the board. He's asking, is ISO 6400 too much?
Well, let me answer that since it's a wedding question. And well, to me, don't you ever question about the ISO, whether it's enough or not. For me, it's more important to capture the photo. But more important as a photographer is to look for the light. And if something we want to capture is actually in a dark shadow, don't bother capture it. No matter how much you want to do it, it's not going to turn out nice. Photography is all about light, so you have to choose the angle, choose the subject before you click the shutter. And in the wedding situation, I mean, I know the church is dark, but there will be some light somewhere, and you just have to make sure that you aim at that point and expose to that point accordingly.
Okay. Wow, so you just avoid, if it's in the dark, you just don't even bother. That's interesting. Let's see.
Can I say something also?
Yes, go ahead.
About the high ISO. I mean, like Jimmy already said, it's about getting the picture right. If it's dark and you want to capture something, you just have to crank up the ISO as far as needed. If you want to capture the shot, that's it. There's no other alternative.
Right.
Yeah, I also want to ask Jimmy something. What if it's the kiss? That's in the dark.
Well, it really depends. Like I always favor the actual overall picture aesthetic rather than worrying about noise. So I'm not afraid of pushing the ISO at all. But you need to get enough to freeze the moment. A lot of people, I know they have the misconception of Micro Four Thirds camera has really good stabilization. They can use longer shutter speeds to basically expose the photo a bit longer to get the light. But for me, it's about the actual moment itself. So you got to keep the minimum shutter speed to be able to freeze the action. I think that's the key. That's true. Yeah.
Okay. I have a question from Rick Bear to Robin. He's asking, it would be useful if Olympus cameras could be set to back up each image in real time as it's taken to a smartphone using Wi-Fi. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, there are two problems with that. It's a great suggestion, but technically, at least for now, it's quite difficult to execute for two reasons. One, the processor is not powerful enough to handle real-time transfer. You have to understand, once the photograph is taken, the camera does a lot of things. First, the processing, the raw process to JPEG if you shoot in JPEG. Then it has to write to the card in real time. There's no delay. That takes a lot of processing power. Like if you do a post-processing on your computer, every time you hit the export button for a single image you see, it takes a little bit of time. But for the camera, it's instant. So for the camera to do a transfer via Wi-Fi out of the camera to a smartphone, that itself will actually tax the camera, and also not to mention the battery life. Another problem that I see is that the smartphone doesn't have enough storage. Like, I'm sure Jimmy does weddings. You easily kill 64 gigs of card, just easily. Imagine you do a full day of shoot and everything just goes to the smartphone. I don't think the smartphones today can handle that much storage yet. But maybe moving forward with the 5G connectivity, a lot of things can happen in the future, but definitely not in the next 1 or 2 years.
Okay, thanks, Robin.
There's a funny thing that I can share with you guys. I don't know if you have come across, or any of you, including people watching it right now, encountered or heard about Wi-Fi before. A Wi-Fi smart media card, memory card.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
they were quite popular probably about eight years ago.
yeah,
Before camera has Wi-Fi.
right.
The solution that you just mentioned about going to smartphone was actually available without a camera. Regardless what it's doing in the camera, it also has a separate features that will allow you to stream to your smartphone live. So everything you take will be like one by one. The photo will appear in the smart devices, whether it's going to be iPad or iPhone.
And they still sell those iFis, or
They still sell them, but in today's world, they're not fast enough now. And I'm not saying about the Wi-Fi speed, but the actual writing speed of the card, they're quite slow. They're probably about 30 megabytes per second, and they're not the card that you'll be using for today's standard now.
I remember those cards. I used to have a couple of those years ago.
Yeah, I had a fair few of those.
Okay.
That was the only way to share.
Yeah.
All right. And then there was a question about weddings from Craig. Says, how many images are typically taken for a wedding or professional shoot, and then what percentage are keepers for the client?
You are trying to open a can of worms. Right. Okay. It's a tricky one because it really depends on weddings. And but if you really want me to say a number, I would say between 2,500 to 3,000. I'm not a heavy shooter, so I don't do a lot of quantity. But in terms of keepers, I would say probably about 30%. Only because in certain situations I do burst shots a lot. Continuous shots. For instance, when they announce the first kiss, I will basically just hold the shutter, just trying to capture the right ones.
Right.
And or confetti, I'll do a lot more burst. So certain situations I'll use burst a lot, and those you only choose one, maybe maximum two. So like you're probably taking about 25, 30 shots, but only taking two. And but averaging out, you're probably about 30%.
Wow. And that's mostly.
Comment on that.
Yeah.
Can I comment on that too? This is going back to memory lane. I used to do weddings way back, and it was funny when, in the time of film, you need to agree on how many films you are allowed to shoot during the wedding, because every film costs more. So you had a limited amount of shots. If they say that, okay, let's agree on 6 rolls of film, which was quite common, and then you said, okay, now I'm done with the 6, and then, in the evening has gone, and they've been taking wine and stuff, and then they say, yeah, come on, shoot a couple more, and then you do, and then when you deliver the photos, then they start taking, but we agreed on 6. They didn't remember that they agreed on some more photos.
Wow.
But it was a totally different ball game at
Right.
the time when there was.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Really, and I'm sure Emily can chime in as well on that question in the chat section. Let's see. Mike Davis is asking, do you recommend back button focus for sport and wildlife?
That's a question for Matti.
I would recommend it, of course. But you know what? The other day I was shooting something, a little bit of street photography, and I took I used the shutter button focusing for a change, and it seemed to work fine as well. So I guess it all depends on your shooting style and how you want to handle your camera.
Yeah. Yeah, I found, yeah, my muscle memory is in my fingers, so that's how I do 90% of the time. But I did find, for birds in flight, though, I did find back button focusing was a little bit easier for me. But like you said, everybody's kind of different. It just depends on what works best for you to get the shot. Okay. Someone has a question for Matti. If you only have to take one Panasonic camera for vacation and no checked luggage, which camera would you take?
I'm gonna take the G9 with the 15mm f1.7 lens. Nothing else.
A 50 millimeter?
15.
15, yeah, the 15 is awesome. Okay, yeah, I would agree with that. I'd probably do Pan F in a 15 millimeter.
You are free to agree, but you don't have to.
Everybody is like that, you know.
So someone's asking what 50 millimeter lens. Wally, the 50 millimeter, are you talking about in micro four thirds terms? Like a 50 millimeter lens, or are you talking about like in 35 millimeter terms where it'd be 25 on a... This is what I hate about these equivalencies, right? Because somebody will say a number like 50 millimeters and you don't know what they mean exactly sometimes. I mean, my brain's totally converted to micro four thirds. So when I'm thinking 50 millimeter, I'm like, that's kind of long. But what's a good budget lens at 50 millimeters? I mean, honestly, I think, you know, the Panasonic 25 millimeter f1.7, I see that on sale for $99, $149 all the time. So if you're looking for an equivalent 50 millimeter lens, to me, that would be the best deal. Any disagreement there from the gang?
No. Well, I'd go for the Mzuiko, but it's just me.
Yeah.
If it's really $99, I mean,
oh yeah, that's
can't argue with that.
Yeah, because you know the Olympus 25 millimeter, you know, I see it on sale for $250 to $300, but that's, you know, it's double the price no matter what time of the day it is. And Andy's asking what car was in the snow video. I couldn't recognize it.
I answered him already.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
In the comments.
Got
No
it.
problem.
Got it. Wow. Emily's saying for the wedding question, how many pictures? She takes 45,000 pictures in a day wedding and deliver about 600 to 700.
Oh, wow.
Let's see. Lost my place again.
I just want to add on the wedding photography side of things while Rob is going through the questions. It's so much, actually it's not about how many photos you take. We generally take as many photos as we can or we need. But at the end of the day, we do curate down the shots to deliver to clients. We only want to show the best shots, the best moments, and the good ones, right? So we filter out the bad ones and we just show the best of the best. So sometimes it really depends. Sometimes I take 3,000 shots. Sometimes I take just 1,000 shots if it's a very, very small wedding. So it's not about how many shots you take, but it's the more important thing you have to ask is how the photographer curate the photographs. I think that's more important to learn.
Yeah, I think that's very true. And as a matter of fact, this is the question that clients usually ask you when they meet you, and so you kind of have to educate your clients, you know, what the number actually means. So like I always tell them, that really depending on your wedding. If your entire wedding is going to be sitting in a small room, there's only so many shots I could take. So, but if you are going to have outdoor, indoor, various different spots in a hotel or something, you're going to have more things going on, then you end up with a lot more photos. So so that way they can understand and gauge themselves. Oh yeah, okay, our wedding is going to be small or big, and they kind of have an idea in their head. So rather than I commit to a number, I just let them figure it out themselves.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and what Jimmy has just said is very important, right? Open communication with clients and laying out the expectations from the start, so that both sides understand each other and what they're getting into. I think communication is like the most important thing in photography.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah, exactly. You need to know what the client wants, and then the client has to understand what you can deliver also. So that's maybe and that's usually the biggest issue. If something goes wrong, it's not the bad pictures, but it's the wrong expectations.
Yes.
That's the case if something goes wrong.
But I have a question about the 45,000 pictures in one wedding. I mean, I just used my calculator, and if you have a 12-hour wedding and you take a picture every 1 second, you get about that amount.
No, it's not a 45. It's 4,000 to 5,000.
4,000 to 5,000, not 45,000.
All right. Okay.
And with Pro Capture, you could probably do 60 frames per second. So let's see. Ray's asking, I have a question about the IBIS versus OIS. Which of these would have better stability at 100 millimeters? The EM1X with a 40, so I guess they have the EM1X with a 40 to 150 Pro, or the EM1 Mark II with a 12 to 100 Pro.
EM1 Mark II with the 12 to 100 F4, yeah, because it has the sync IS.
I agree.
Okay. Let's see. Well, should a wedding photographer dress up to blend in, or should she dress more informal?
Well, once again, it depends on what type of wedding they are. I would not dress up like a full-on dinner suit and things like that, because I always tell my client, yes, I would dress smart, but I need to be comfortable because I'm actually working there. So I need to bend down a lot, So instead of wearing like smart pants, I probably would wear black jeans. So it's much easier for me to maneuver and things like that. But I will wear a shirt for sure. Maybe sometime a waistcoat and a jacket. It really depends. But I have been to some weddings that they actually asked me to dress down. So that's because that's the theme. They want to be quite normal street style, so they asked me to, you don't stand out, I want you to just dress whatever you want to dress on the day normally when you go out, and okay, that's fine. So you kind of have to ask the question as well at the same time, but most likely you're going to have to dress smart anyway, not to blend in, but to respect the wedding, I guess.
Okay, and be comfortable as always, because you're right, I didn't think about that. You're going to have to be moving around, so you do need to be comfortable.
Oh yes.
Let's see here. Why is Olympus manual so hard to understand? Well, basically he's complimenting us.
Can I say something about that?
Yes, please.
If the manuals were good, we would not need to do the videos, which would be bad. So I'm really glad that those manuals are a little messy, so we can do the videos for you guys.
And that was sort of the follow-up to that. He said that he's learned most about his camera from all of us, and he's thanking all of you for that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Yeah.
And that's the thing is when I watched everyone's channel, because I had to learn a lot too, and I learned a lot from all of them as well. The reason I reached out to these photographers first is because I really felt like they always put their heart and soul into every video, and they're very sincere about helping all of you. And I think that comes through in their videos, and that's why I connected so well with them, and they were very kind to come in today. But okay, that's enough of that. Let's see. Have any of you ever done dance photography at rehearsal or itself? Stage lighting and motion are challenging. So any feedback
Yes,
on that?
Yes, I have done quite a lot of stage photography, done theater. In fact, I'm one of the regular shooters or photographers for KLPAC or Kuala Lumpur Performing Arts Center. They do all kinds of shows, and in most cases, the lighting is not a problem because they need to have like those spectacular lights on the stage, and if you use f2.8 or f1.8 lens, you don't really need to go very high ISO, and it's sufficient to freeze motion. I think the problem comes when it's really, really low light. Just go high ISO. There's no other choice, right? And if you are the official photographer, if you really, if you are hired to shoot the event, or if you can get access to go near, if you are very close to the stage, then it's less of an issue because you are nearer to the subjects. Then it's not much of a problem. I think the problem comes when you're too far away and it's really dim and you have to use a very long lens. That's when the challenge really starts. Yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, and it makes. Did anyone else have any feedback on that, or? I think Robin got it.
Really about, like Robin was saying about the light, that's I haven't done it really that much on photographing on stage, but what I like about that is that they have done the lights. You just have to concentrate on freezing the moment or catching the ascension. You don't have to worry about the light. It's not your fault anyways if it's bad.
Yeah.
Also, if you are close enough to the stage, if you're not shooting too far away, use the f1.8 lenses, the 45 1.8, 75 1.8. The f1.8 will give you a lot more light gathering so that you don't have to bump up your ISO too high.
Right. Okay, so Michael's asking sort of a similar question when you're mixing cameras and lenses by brand. So let's say you have a Panasonic lens with OIS, and then you have the Olympus body with IBIS, and let's just say it's the M1 Mark II because you didn't specify the camera. Which one would you use?
I'll use the IBIS.
Yeah.
Yeah, that they don't mix well. Like we've been doing a video together with Matti. We haven't filmed it yet, but we have talked about it a lot about how the lenses work on each camera. So that okay, Matti is testing Olympus lenses on his Panasonic, and I'm testing Panasonic lenses on my Olympus. And what I found out that they work pretty well, but there are certain things, and one is the IBIS and the stabilizer in the lens that I would use the IBIS on most of the cases.
Yeah.
Because they don't work together. Panasonic lenses on Olympus works a bit better because they can understand each other a bit better. But Panasonic doesn't understand M-Suico lenses that good. When I'm talking about the IBIS and the stabilizer, otherwise it's perfectly fine.
So even when the Panasonic camera has IBIS, it doesn't work as well with Olympus. Because most Olympus.
That part works, but I'm talking about if there's a stabilizer in the lens, then it's.
I see. So.
That's a bit.
I got it. Okay, good to know. Because that happens to a lot of people, I'm sure. They buy mixed brands, and then which one is going to work better? I mean, ultimately, I always tell people, unless there's a specific reason you need that focal length, try to buy the same brand. That matches your camera. They're always going to work better together. Okay. Are wedding photos considered evidence? I think that's a joke.
Well, about that question, actually it happened before, not my wedding jobs, one of my friends. I think something from the bride, I think it was her purse or something got stolen. So she made a police report the next day, and they actually asked the photographer to surrender all the photographs as evidence. just so that the police can go through them and see if they can find something.
Oh.
And that has happened before.
Really? Wow.
Yes.
I guess that makes sense, right?
Can I pick a question, Rob, from there?
Yeah, go ahead.
Tasker is asking about if you, for folks who are dreaming of going professional, what's the best advice considering all the experience in the room? My advice would be get a very good kind of like a selling knowledge, or go to a business school, because running a photographic business is actually a business. You're not a photographer, you're actually an entrepreneur in many cases, and that's the biggest thing that many of us struggle. I don't know what the others think, but I think getting some business school or whatever that's called.
I wouldn't recommend anyone to get into photography as a professional. I'd recommend they have a proper job and then do photography on the side. That's my recommendation today.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have all been doing this a while. I know for me, I really didn't start going professional until about 2 years ago. Before that, I had a regular, well, I was a subcontractor, but I had a day job basically, and I just did it on the weekends or on the side when I can, up until the point I had enough business rolling in that I could, leave that. Well, let me rephrase that. Once that contract expired, because I knew the contract was going to expire 2 years ago, I started building up my photography business on the side to the point that once the contract expired, I could transition over to do photography full time. And yeah, I'm earning a lot less than I used to, but I have so much free time too. I'm so much happier, basically doing what you love.
Oh yes, of course. But I think an advice for anyone who's trying to be a professional is that they're not afraid of what they are going to give up, because you're going to gain a lot being entrepreneur, because, like, for instance, your flexibility of work and the potential reward can be a lot more than your typical 9 to 5, and not only financially but also, like, as achievements and that, so to speak. But also, like, in terms of giving up, if you're really into photography, you're moving up from amateur level to professional level. One thing that people often forget is that once you become a professional, you're hired, commissioned by a client, you are delivering. And from that point onward, you are losing the actual freedom for your creations. So, if you're very used to creating your project, you're working on a long-term project, you spend, let's say, 6 hours on a photos in front of the Photoshop and things like that, you can never ever do that again, because when it's a job, it's all about turnover. You're about completing a job, moving on to the next and the next and the next, and it's a factory line. And you will still have time. You have to find time to do your own project, but you will actually lose a lot of freedom in that sense. And so whatever you may find you're interesting in at the moment, it will be totally different once you move into professional level.
Yeah.
I want to quote Helmut Newton, the famous fashion photographer. He said that he is a gun for hire. That's what actually a professional photographer is.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it would be very difficult for me to replace the income I had before. But I chose this lifestyle to have a lot more free time. And that's, but everybody's different. If you really need to replace an income, don't give up your day job just yet.
And it's very wise what Jimmy just said. You are not shooting for yourself anymore.
Yeah.
You're shooting for someone else. And I have shot like probably millions of pictures during my career as a photographer, and but those pictures don't mean anything to me. They are just some faces of people who I don't even remember anymore, and all kinds of stuff that it doesn't mean anything to me. I've gotten my money, and after that, those pictures are nothing to me. It doesn't mean that I didn't enjoy working with those clients, but those pictures, they don't mean anything to me after I've delivered them.
That's a good thing that you said the last sentence, because I was just going to ask you, so that I hope your clients are not listening.
Okay, this is a good question for Peter, because you just did a great video on lenses. So what do you think about it? What do you think would be a good portrait lens among these three? The Sigma 31.4, the Olympus 45 1.8, or the Panasonic 42.5 1.8. Sigma would be the cheapest and fastest in the area I live. But what are your thoughts, Peter?
Well, it's always hard when somebody asks if they should buy something else than Olympus, because, well, it's,
yeah.
I mean, let's say in a tough spot. And I know that all of these lenses are really good. And I've tested the Sigma, and Matti has the 42.5, which is a good lens. Or was it that one? Or was it some other lens that you tested?
Yeah.
And so I would, on those lenses, I would go with the one that you feel that is the best value for money. If it's the cheapest lens, then go for that.
Okay.
Because you never should break your bank when you're buying gear. I think you should always buy the things that you find that is more valuable to you and is, let's say, the cheapest one in many cases, because they're all good, those lenses.
Very wise words.
Thanks, Robin.
Okay. Do we switch off the IBIS when we use continuous AF? I think in continuous AF, you can tell the camera to either give the shutter priority or give the IBIS priority.
Yes.
So you can tell the camera what to do, but and I guess the recommendation would be based on what you're shooting, whether to have it on or off, one way or the other. But there is a setting in the release menu to tell the camera give IBIS priority or give the shutter release priority. So look in the release menu. If you're at very high shutter speeds, you can just shoot with the IBIS off. You don't need it. But if you're at very low shutter speeds, I'd probably give IBIS priority. I don't know. What do you guys think? Does that sound advice?
Yeah, it sounded right. But I always have the IBIS on just because otherwise I'll get seasick when I'm looking through the visor.
Right. Roger's asking, would any of you guys consider doing a video of how you set up and take a picture from the moment you get the idea to actually taking the shot? So we're talking about, I guess, creatively speaking, not professionally.
That would actually be a good challenge for all. Why don't we all make a video like that?
Yeah, I mean,
let's say in a month's time, and then post it at the same time. Could we agree on that? Would that be fun?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure thing.
I can do that. I mean, every one of my photo walks, though, are pretty much that. You know? Well, no, okay, but I'll do a total, I think a total A to Z type thing before you turn the camera on. What do you do? What gear do you pack? What settings do you set up? And then I think,
And we most likely will pick something different, so we all have different gear with us, and
right.
That's going to be interesting.
Okay, Roger, you got a video coming from, well, potentially 5 or 6. If I totally lost track of Emily. I'm so sorry. You're in the chat room, so I haven't seen you posted recently. But if you're still here, great. If not, thanks for coming in. I appreciate that. We'll get you live one day, though. But it looks like I'll probably have to do like only 2 or 3 at a time because I'm losing bandwidth time to time. Let's see. Has anybody tried using the Olympus 12-100 f4 Pro lens with the EM5 Mark III? And if so, does the new accessory make it better balanced to carry for extended periods?
Yes, it will. It will.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because that's a heavy lens. How much does that thing weigh? Like 600 grams or something, right? Yeah, I think anything bigger than a 12-40 Pro on an EM5 Mark III, I would use a grip.
Yeah.
You know, So I'm excited to wait for the new F4 line to come out, and if the pricing's right, that'll be a nice lineup for the M5 Mark III. And there's
a good question. There's a good question to Robin about his therapy sessions where he didn't actually shoot anything. I want to hear that.
Well, if shutter therapy refers to the action of clicking the shutter, right? You're doing photography just for the fun of it. You do it for yourself. You go out and have fun, enjoy the session, right? But if there is no shutter clicking involved, then it's not really a shutter therapy session. It's other kind of other kind of therapy, right?
Because usually when I do something like that, I just go out and grab some images. I think it doesn't matter if I don't get any good photographs. It's just it's kind of like a ritual. It's the whole thing that it's great. The what do you call the moment of making the image, even though if it's not a good one.
Yeah.
I think that's really good. So, and if you don't get any good images, then you don't show them to anyone. I don't really. When you're shooting for yourself, of course, that's a different thing for clients, of course. But when you do, photo walks or shutter therapy, whatever you call them, then it's not the images, it's the thing.
Okay.
It's the experience that matters,
yes.
Right?
Okay, Catalin's asking, what's better to save battery life? Turning off the camera in between shots? Is that a solution? What are your experience?
I don't know, because I always have it on. I don't know if you are traveling like this trip. I'm solely using the EM5 Mark III, which has a much smaller battery compared to EM1 Mark II or the EM1X, and I do switch off the camera in between if I'm walking around. Because these days the wake up time of the camera is a lot faster than, let's say, 5 years ago. So it's not too much of a problem. But depends what type of photography you're in. If you're doing street photography, you really do want the camera to be always on because you don't want to miss the moment. And so if you are doing travel photography, moving one location to another, switch it off is the best way to extend the battery life.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that's just what they call best practices. If you're out hiking and stuff, then turn the camera off between shots. But street photography or where you need to be quick, it just needs to be on. And always carry extra batteries. I mean, I got tons and tons of extras. But anyway, let's see. Somebody's going to Japan. I've never been there, so I wouldn't be able to answer this question. But they own the EM5 Mark II. And they have all the primes, the 17, 25, and 45. And they have a 7 and that must be a fisheye, Samyang 7.5, and the 12 millimeter, and the 40 to 150 kit lens.
My goodness. Okay.
So they have them all basically. They have a good selection there. What would be best to take them all?
I would take the Holy Trinity.
Oh, okay.
17, 25, and 45.
Just the 3 primes and forget about the 40 to 150?
Yeah.
And for Japan, I would take the fisheye.
Yeah, because of
the central Tokyo, you can get some really cool shot with the building and people. But it's quite a niche lens. You may only use it once or twice, but if you do manage to do it, it could be quite worthwhile photo to take.
Yeah, I'd agree with that because, in Hong Kong, in Japan, everything's tight. So you're going to be very close up to things. So you need to be wide, basically. Not like here in the United States where everything's, you need your 300 millimeter f4 just to get a picture sometimes.
But everything is so big in America, right?
Yeah. Well, no, far away, a lot of open land in places. I mean, not downtown and stuff, but a lot of places I go, my 75 to 300 isn't long enough sometimes. Okay. Sorry, I'm catching up here. Outback is saying you need to do more vlog style vlogs, Robin.
I'll figure out a way to do that.
Yeah, because you have a lot of
The
good,
reason-
street photography. I know.
But the reason I don't like to just carry the camera and vlog around is because I mean Matti has come to Malaysia before. The roads are quite dangerous, and then sometimes the drivers and the motorcyclists, they don't see where you're going, so
Yeah.
I sort of be mindful of where I'm walking into.
Oh my God! You know, when I was in Malaysia, yeah, I kept getting hit by the car mirrors. You know, because
It's dangerous.
oh yeah, I mean they just drive everywhere and people walk everywhere. There's just, it's yeah, there's I forget the word, but yeah, it's crazy over there. And those little scooter bikes, you know, the little motorcycles and scooters, those guys are lunatics. I mean, seriously.
So gotta stay safe. Safety always.
Yeah, so that makes sense. That makes sense. Oh God, just when I started reading, it jumped up on me. There's something about thoughts on the 8mm Pro lens.
Oh,
So,
yes.
so I assume that's the Fisheye Pro. They're thinking about that for their next purchase. I mean, it's a lens that I use in my pro work for real estate because I need to be wide because I'm usually in very small offices, you know, small offices. But, you know, when you ask about a specific lens, it really depends on your application. So Outback, if you could be a little more specific, I think, because the 8mm, yeah, it's tack sharp, you know, weather sealed, etc. It's a great lens. But yeah, if you could elaborate.
Yeah, I think it's always a good thing to wait before buying a lens. Just, you know, really, if you really need it and you have missed some shots because of that, or you don't have a lens and you want to get it for that or something like that. But don't just get a lens because you just want a new lens. That doesn't work usually. You will use it a couple of times, and then you end up having it in your drawer somewhere.
Yeah.
If you don't know, it's the best way just to rent one. Try for a day or two.
That's true.
And that way you get a feel of it, is whether the lens is really for you.
Yeah, I mean, you know, like Robin just did a video on the 75mm f1.8 prime. He bought that lens, and you know, I bought that lens years ago, and it just collects dust. I mean, I bought it because, you know, at the time I was like into, you know, I want the sharpest lens ever, and it's tack sharp, but I just have no use for it. It's not long enough for most things, and then when you do get something you can frame in there, you have to stand like, you know, 10 meters away to get them in the frame. So I just didn't find it a very practical lens.
Yeah, I also have it, and now it's back there. I don't use it that much anymore after I got the 45.
Yeah. How about you, Jimmy?
Before that, I did use it quite a lot.
Same as Peter.
Yeah.
I don't use it either.
Yeah, but I do use it to film. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I do use it for filming.
Oh,
okay.
I haven't used that, but it's for me for portrait. It's a bit too long because I want to be a bit closer to the person I'm photographing.
Yeah.
That's
another reason.
It's funny they labeled it as a portrait lens, but in terms of portraiture, you know, like you always try to communicate with your client, you know, directly with your mouth, not through a walkie-talkie. So it's definitely not the way to do it.
True.
Yeah, but I can see. Yeah, if I put the camera that far away from me, because I vlog by myself, it would be gone. Somebody would run off with that thing in 2 seconds. Oh my God! Somebody's asking Jimmy, what's your obsession with pigeons?
I don't know. Pigeons always one of my fascination. I always find them quite characterful because each one of them can be quite different in many sense. You know, like they might be, you know, look like an idiot running around, but each one of them are very different idiots. So
yeah,
it fascinates me. You know, they all got different looks, and but you know, watch this space. I may actually do a pigeon book.
Really? Wow, that would be. They are beautiful birds when you really look at them. You know. And someone's asking about Flickr, setting up a group channel. I don't know. I'm a Flickr Pro member for different reasons, because I like to share with family, the thousands of photos I've taken over the years, and it's totally private. So that's why I use Flickr, not for anything professional. But do any of you guys use Flickr professionally, or?
Nope.
I haven't used, no. I haven't.
Yeah.
I do have a pro account, but I haven't touched it for about 8 years.
Yeah.
Isn't Flickr dying? I thought it's not doing well.
Well, they
no
lost
idea.
subscription. I think they lost subscriptions, and because there are so many platforms out there now, and I think partly to blame with social media platforms like Twitter's and or Instagram and Facebook. These are the main medium for people sharing photos these days. And Flickr is slowly losing its touch. It's not mobile enough for them to,
Yeah.
use it on the go. That's
I
the
thought so
problem.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And although they have the community in there, but then so does Facebook, which is much easier kind of place for people to talk and share things these days.
Right. So it's the user interface,
interesting.
basically,
Yeah.
that's killing it. And I get that. Like I said, I use it just for personal. Who uses it though professionally is Joe Edelman. He uses it professionally because he can upload the picture, and then it's automatically resized for him. He doesn't have to resize them for the client. And he said he used to waste a lot of time resizing images for his client, but then when he uploads it to Flickr, it automatically does that. So that's why he uses it.
That's interesting to find out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's in his live streams that I watch time to time. So Joe, if you're watching, I watch your live streams. Let's see. Dang it, I hate when it just jumps up like that. Danlo's saying Maddie convinced him to buy a G9. And it's a fabulous camera.
The best.
But it's just copying what Olympus did, the year before. They finally caught up. It took them a year, but they caught up to the M5 Mark II. And
They all copy each other's.
Here's an interesting question. I don't know if anyone has this experience, but Olympus, they need a 300 millimeter focal length. So they're asking between the Olympus 75 to 300 or the 40 to 150 Pro with a 2x teleconverter, or just get the Panasonic 1 to 300. And my gut feeling is, I think the 40 to 150 with a 2x teleconverter would be best, because that'll give you a lot of versatility.
Yeah, I agree on that.
Because you can just take the teleconverter off and you're back down to 40 millimeters.
Yeah, well, that depends on what his budget is. Sounds like, because both the 75 to 300 and the Panasonic equivalent are a lot cheaper than the 40 to 150 plus the 2 times converted combo.
Of course, then.
Right.
So it sounds like he's thinking about a dream combo or the 2 cheaper version. So of course, like the Pro lens would definitely beat it outright in terms of image quality and speed and everything else.
Yeah, it's definitely the strongest. Money's pretty much be your guide, right? If it costs more, it's better in this case on those 3 lenses anyway. Let's see here. Dang it. It just flew up again. I'm in real estate shooting. Can MFT take place of full frame? Heard some clients prefer or require full frame. I can tell you it's never come up in my work. I don't know if any of you guys have done real estate photography, but in my work, all they care about is, and just like in wedding photography or what Robin was saying, all they care about is the final results. So they see the work that I've done before and they hire me for that. They don't care about the camera. And, you know, in real estate photography, if you're good, you're using a flash anyway, and then you're doing blending. You know, doing a single shot, you know, trying to do HDR or doing single shot and then post-processing in Lightroom or something is not going to cut it in real estate photography, because the dynamic range is just too high. I mean, it could be like 20 stops difference between what's outside and what's inside. And so you have to use flash and you have to use bracketing combined, and no camera can handle that. Full frame, medium frame, doesn't matter. You have to bracket and use flash. And so the sensor size is irrelevant in real estate photography, in my opinion. But I don't know, what do you guys have any feedback on that if you've done real estate?
No,
not that much.
Definitely not mine.
Yeah. Yeah, it's irrelevant, because I used the Nikon D750 for my real estate photography before switching to, I used the EM10 Mark II actually for 2 years. I didn't even use my EM1 Mark II for real estate photography, because it just doesn't matter. In real estate, you have to use flash, you have to bracket your shots, and then you do multi-image merging. You merge your flash shots together with your ambient light shots in Photoshop. So yeah, if somebody's requiring full frame, they don't know anything. You know, they're just yeah, they don't know anything about photography if they tell you you need a full frame. is my gut feeling.
Exactly.
Yeah, in most situations, it doesn't matter. It's only the results that matter.
Yeah.
And the clients generally all over the place, they don't know that much about your cameras and lenses and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Robin, Roman is asking, is the 25mm much better? I'm sorry, the Olympus 25mm f1.8 much better than the Lumix 20mm f1.7?
I think those are two very different lenses. They can't be compared directly. It's like comparing apples to oranges. In terms of what a focal length can cover, they are very different. But for me personally, I prefer the 50mm equivalent, so I go for the 25. And the only reason that I'm not a fan of the 20mm, actually I really love the small size. It is so compact. I like pancake lenses, and that lens is sharp, right? But the only reason that I'm not going for the 20 Panasonic is a slow autofocus. That's the only problem. And this is probably only true if you use that lens on an Olympus body. So correct me if I'm wrong, if you use the 20mm f1.7 on Panasonic cameras, it is much faster. Is that right, Matti?
I don't have that lens, but I have used it, and I've never really had any problems with the autofocus. But I'm generally almost never have any problems with autofocus speed. So that's just me.
Yeah, there is a perceptible difference, though, I think, when you use those pancake lenses from Panasonic, between that and a premium Zuiko lens like the 25mm, and there's definitely a big difference in video. You know, that pancake lens is not going to focus in video anywhere near as well.
Yes.
So if you have the Lumix already and you primarily do photography and it's just single shot, I think you're fine. If you're using a Panasonic body, if you have an Olympus body and you're doing continuous autofocus, a lot of high-speed shooting, yeah, I would get a 25mm f1.8. But for the average person, a 20mm f1.7 is perfectly fine.
For me, it matters. The right angle of view matters more than the autofocus speed. If the angle of view is wrong, then I can't use the lens. That's my thought.
Yeah. I mean, every time you buy a lens, you really need to think about, do I really need this? And that's why I really you know, in some of my videos, I compare the 14 to 42 kit lens against a prime, just to show you the difference. Because your kit lens covers a lot of focal lengths right there, you know, and the question is, do you really need that much more light from a prime lens? And then when you buy a prime lens, which one do you get? Because and you have to have very specific intent. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a 75 millimeter on the shelf like me, Peter, and Jimmy, just sitting there collecting dust.
You could have donated yours to me. We'll get used to it. Okay. I just bought one.
Yeah, see, yeah, come in 6 months, Robin, if we do another live stream, you'll be like, yeah, mine is on the shelf. You'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah. Isn't the M5 Mark II the same as the G95? No, they're very different in my opinion. What do you guys think? Well, Matti, I guess, would be the best one.
What was the question again?
The question is, isn't the M5 Mark II the same as the G95?
I don't think so.
Yeah, they're very different cameras.
Yeah.
I mean, ergonomically speaking, I think they're very different. And there's a lot of features that...
Different features.
Yeah, different features on the cameras. I mean, the G95 is going to have 4K video, and the 4K Pro shot, I forget what they call it. 4K photo mode?
Yeah, something like photo mode, yeah.
Yeah, whatever. I'm not a Panasonic guy, yeah.
4K video.
Right. If you need those things, you know, the G95 makes more sense. Well, let me rephrase that. It's a very different camera in that sense. The M5 Mark II has a lot more photocentric features, I think, that you won't find on a G95. Yeah, this CKS has been asking since the stream started about the EM1 Mark III. And I've been dodging it. I'm sorry, CKS. I've been dodging it because the answer is basically nobody knows, and if they do know, they can't tell you. But I don't know. Does anybody have any feedback on that, other than
No
what
comment.
Nope.
Let's buy the lottery this Friday.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm sorry that I don't know anything more than anyone else, and like I said, if somebody does know something,
I know something. It's coming up.
Yeah.
Sooner or later.
Sooner or later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right. This is a very common question from Roger, but a lot of people ask me this as well, and I'm sure you get this question. But we'll start with Robin. You know, if you could have only one, and I'm gonna with the caveat for your personal use, because for professional use, there's no way you can answer this. But for your personal use, if you could only have one camera and one lens, what would it be?
EM5 Mark III and probably the 12 to 40 Pro.
Yeah. How about Matti?
I'd probably take the G9 and the 15mm f1.7
Right.
lens.
Peter?
The M5 Mark III with a 25mm lens.
Yeah. How about you, Jimmy?
EM53 and the 17 1.2.
Yeah.
EM53. How about you, Rob?
I'm gonna have to break the trend here. I'm gonna say Pen F with the 17-1.8.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a good choice.
If it's one camera, because I just love because I'm a JPEG shooter, right? So if I wasn't a JPEG shooter, EM5.3 then, but and
I'm curious what's Emily's.
yeah, I was going to ask Emily. Emily, what would be your one camera and lens for your personal use?
She just answered.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, there is some question about, I think it's been there before, Riku Sallinen, and I suspect he's from Finland. He's asking about street photography
Yes.
about publishing the strangers. And I have to say that depends on the country that you are photographing in, because the laws are a bit different. Like today in France, the person who is in the photograph has some kind of a copyright for the photo more than in other places. And I can only say about Finland. And in here we have, it's actually, if I ask someone on the street, can I take a picture of you? And they say yes, then I have the copyright. But in many cases, if they ask me to take their photograph, then they have kind of like say where I can use it. And if I have made the initiative to make the photograph, I can sell it as a piece of art, but not in advertisement without the permission. And I think that's maybe the most common, at least here in Finland. I can't say about other countries.
Yeah.
I would like to add to Peter's comment. There is an exception, and I have sold my street photograph before. About a year ago, one of my street photographs that I took in South Africa, a portrait of a person, was being bought and published and being used as a book cover. How it happened, whatever Peter said was still valid, that if it's a person, that person has some rights. So what the publisher did was to crop off the head. So you have the body, but no face. So the book is just showing the person with no head. And that itself can allow the photograph to be sold with no copyright issues.
Yeah,
but then you don't know actually who it is.
Yeah, and in the U.S., that's generally the rule of thumb. As long as there's nobody identifiable in the image, you can use it for resale. But they'd have to be really small or their head cut off, basically, right? Yep. Because the human eye is really good at distinguishing who a person is from great distances or very small sizes. So yeah, generally for resale, you can't have anybody in the picture that can be recognizable. If you got the back of their head or something.
Unless it's considered to be a piece of art, then it's a different thing. But that can be very in different countries, though.
Yeah, in the U.S.
What I do in a situation where, let's say there's a street photography, a general street photography, there are people in the distance, and there's different colored jackets, then I kind of like change the colors of the jackets in Photoshop so they can kind of like recognize themselves. Everybody's like, what?
Yeah, I don't understand where that was going.
Yeah.
Okay.
I never change anything. I just leave it as it is. But I'm only making art, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, in the US you cannot do it though. Anything. You can publish, you can post things on Instagram, etc., but you're not selling images, right? And the idea being is to protect people's privacy in the sense that you don't want to take a picture of somebody, then put their picture up and use it for a Viagra commercial. Something like that. Okay. But yeah, you can publish on Facebook, no problem. Kyung Young Yu is asking if I use HDR because I'm a JPEG shooter. Occasionally I do. Occasionally I do use HDR. Not very often, because I'd rather learn to see the scene for the light that's there and use that to my advantage, because HDR is kind of cheating, but there's some images that you do want to capture, that extended dynamic range. Sunset shots are very typical, where you need that high dynamic range, and I'll try an HDR, but even then sometimes it's not enough. But yeah, ultimately I for the most part, I try not to use HDR. I try to read the light in the scene and get the exposure that I want on the subject. Get the exposure that I want for the subject that I want. And then I don't care if highlights blow out if my subject is in the shadows. And vice versa. I don't care if the shadows get crushed to black if my subject is in the highlights. HDR is sort of my, last go-to if I need it. A lot of comments on street photography here.
Yeah. And there's also Rick Berry saying that I'm using that so many photograph forums are more about which camera/lens is technically better rather than about capturing better images. Well, that's also with the videos. You also, if you make a video about some gear, you get better views compared to if you make a video about photography, which is a bit sad because videos about photography is more fun, but you need to sometimes just to.
Yeah.
And
just one more thing is Lauren is a very experienced street photographer. He's been corresponding with me via email, and he thinks I'm incorrect on the street photography selling of images. So yeah, I'm not an expert. I don't sell any prints anyway, so I wouldn't know. But yeah, consult with an attorney is kind of the go-to phrase, right?
I think you can sell them as art pretty much everywhere, I think. But if you sell them for commercial use,
yes, commercial is the key word. Like my Viagra example, right?
Jimmy, do you do street photography in London?
I do. I actually fairly known for it.
Yeah,
it's kind of something that I've never really talked about where in my YouTube channel.
Yeah, it's missing. Why?
Yeah,
it's just something that I think's been covered a lot, and I may do some photography 101 videos on them, but then it's not my I don't know. It's just some things that I kind of do for myself and never really show anybody.
Wow.
Yeah, someone was asking you, Jimmy, specifically about street photography. If you find it I can't pronounce problematic. That a photography can be hit with heavy criminal charges. If you have any feedback on that, because I do know you do a lot of street photography. I've seen your portfolio. And they're wonderful images.
Problematic in what sense? It's kind of vast area if you ask me.
Yeah.
Because I do a lot of street portrait as well at the same time when I do street photography. Usually I would ask these portrait artist people for me to photograph. They are complete strangers on the street, so I do ask permission. And I rarely just going up like Bruce Gilden, just come up and snap them right in the face. So I never really do that.
Wow.
But that to me can be problematic. And I know his method is questionable, but obviously he's one of the greats out there. And I do respect his images, and it's very, very different. But yeah, his method is to me may not be ideal in today's world, especially because privacy issues and things like that now, and his photographers all back in the 80s and 90s, so it's this very, very different world back then compared to now.
Yes.
Yeah. There's a question here for Robin.
Okay.
Have you used the STF-8 flash for macro photography?
Nope. My technique is quite straightforward. I did a video on my inside macro photography, how I execute every single detail, single-handed wireless flash with a mini softbox camera and a macro lens on one hand, how I executed all my camera settings all in that video. So do find that video. It is done a few months ago.
Yeah, it's pretty recent. I remember watching that one.
Yep. So no SDF twin flash, and that's the twin flash, the twin flash. The reason I don't use that is because the flash is undiffused and it is direct, so it creates a very harsh highlight and shadow. Yeah. It's not. I'm not saying that it's bad, but that's not the kind of look that I want in my macro photographs. I prefer softer looking images.
It has the the softeners in front. You can just pop them up.
But
It's
it
not
doesn't
as
give
soft.
you the yeah.
It doesn't. Yeah, no, it's not as soft as if you bounce it from somewhere. Yeah.
Here's another question from Ray. For landscape or architectural interiors, what's the best way to get good front-to-back sharpness? I've tried hyperfocal, but not easy to set specific focal distance on a lens. So any tips? Basically, I think for landscape, it makes more sense.
Yeah, there's actually a question in one of my videos that somebody asked the thing, and then there was somebody commented on that. Why not use the AF limiter and set the limiter to the focal or the hyperfocal length of that lens and that aperture? I don't know if it works. I haven't tried it yet, but that could work.
Right, and
I don't know if you you have tested that.
I have not. It makes sense though.
Yeah, I haven't tested it, but it could work.
Yeah, that's a clever way to do it, and that's
I've
assuming the
tried it.
camera has that capability, right?
Yeah, not all cameras have them, but
right.
The ones that have that might work.
And CKS is saying we need more vlogs on using speed lights with the OMD. I agree. Right. I agree with that. I mean, I have a few off-camera flash videos, but they're very, very basic. Does anybody use flash in street photography?
No,
in
me.
Street. No, not street.
Yeah, no way, right?
Like it does create more problems.
Yeah.
It does.
Now, I did get a tip that it's okay to have a big speed light on your camera when you're out doing street photography, and then turn it off so that if people don't see it flashing, they don't think you're taking a picture. Yeah.
Well, if you want to do candid, yeah, why not?
Yeah. So they just see this big speed light on your camera, but it didn't go off, so you didn't take their picture. It's kind of, just being more discreet, I guess.
But in real life, the truth is that most people walking down the street, they don't notice if you're taking pictures. They are just going somewhere or doing whatever they're doing. They don't notice if you're taking pictures in most cases.
True.
How you've covered it. Okay, somebody's asking what videos do we have coming up in the future. So we'll start with Robin, then go to Matti. What do you have coming up, Robin?
Tomorrow, Portraits of Strangers with Olympus OMD.
Okay, good timing. How about you, Matti? What do you got coming up?
I have a video coming up about photography, what I think when I took the picture, what I was thinking, and something like about photography, not about gear.
Okay.
I hope someone watches it.
Yeah, no. So there's a lot of people that are interested. How about you, Peter? What's next?
I have a video about noise reduction in post, and mainly Topaz denoise AI.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, someone was asking me about Topaz, and I said what I saw from it was pretty amazing.
I got it. Okay, it was the trial period for 30 days for my drone shots.
Mm-hmm.
Then I just, tried it on my bird photography that I was doing, my previous video, and it worked really well.
Yeah,
It's amazing, but more tomorrow.
Okay, how about you, Jimmy? What's next?
Next, I'm not too sure at the moment. I'm filming a ton of stuff at the moment, and so they're still in production. I don't know which one's going to be released first, so stay tuned.
Okay. So you've mastered that multi-workflow thing.
That's admirable.
Yeah, I can't do it. I just, oh my God. For as a creator, we have to, put out videos, but there's some train of thought that you can record multiple different videos over time and then crank them out as you need, then publish them, one day after the other. I can't do that. sometimes I
Now
honestly,
somebody's saying that we're an all-male panel.
no. Who was that? Was probably Emily, right? She said, "Why is it all men up there?" I invited you.
No, it wasn't her. It wasn't her.
Oh,
It
I
was
know.
someone else.
I know.
Somebody else. Yeah.
Yeah, I tried. I didn't give enough notice though, and I'm very happy that all of you could make it as it is. Okay, gosh. You guys are out and about. You should go on a vlog street. I have no idea. Question. What's the next? It jumped on me. Hold on.
That's an interesting one. About how long does it take to finalize a video? Somebody's asking.
Oh, yeah, for me, 8 hours. It's like about an hour of shooting and then 8 hours to process it, edit it. And it could be like a 10-minute video or 5-minute video. It still takes me 8 hours.
Yeah.
For me, like one video is 1 day, like 1 day gone. Although I don't spend the whole day doing the video, but basically it's just the day is gone, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty
Well,
common. Yeah.
Yeah, 8
1 day,
hours
1 day
sound-
of video.
Yeah, 8 hours sounds familiar.
Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty much sums it up. That's
it
what.
depends on the production value of the videos, and
course.
if you obviously shooting multiple locations, having models and other things, and it may take a little bit longer just to do everything, and it'd be just blogging yourself, and those are usually pretty straightforward, and a few hours that should be sufficient.
Does anybody use? This is a product question. The Rogue Flash Bender. Are you familiar with? Anybody familiar with? I don't use it.
Nope.
No.
Sorry.
Sorry, no.
Nope.
Yeah, and because nobody uses that really. I mean, nobody that I know professionally uses that. It's one of those products that sell a lot because they market it as a way to spread the light and things. But professionally, you know what you're doing with the flash anyway. How do you all shoot your clone and training videos in urban settings and/or the studio? Do you have helpers? So I don't do any clone or training.
Cologne? What does that mean?
Cologne, like men's perfume.
Oh, cologne. You're right. Oh.
Is
Okay.
it? Does anybody have videos like that?
No.
Yeah.
I don't understand what you're talking about.
Sorry, I'm like, what?
Yeah, I'm a bit lost. Yeah.
Okay. I'm almost caught up here. What's the next best camera to upgrade to from an Olympus EM10 Mark II?
Lumix G9.
Lumix G9, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
how advanced he is or she is.
yeah, it really depends, AJ. I think, because I didn't answer. That's going to be one of my next videos, is about people that own the EM10 Mark II right now. What should you upgrade to, if anything? And spoiler alert, you really don't need to upgrade. That's a fabulous camera. It takes excellent pictures. In terms of image quality, any of the cameras will do a good job in the Micro Four Thirds system. What you really need to ask yourself are, what features do you need or lacking that the EM10 doesn't have? I mean, are you shooting all day long and constantly changing battery and that annoys you? Then the EM1 Mark II makes sense. Do you need to capture sports action, birds in flight, soccer games, what have you? Then the EM5 III might be fine. So it really depends on why you need to upgrade. I think for absolute image quality, you don't need to upgrade from an EM10 Mark II. But if you need something specific that another camera offers, then you might want to consider upgrading to that camera. Like I said, if you need a larger battery, or if you need a 4K video, or if you need a specific feature, then yeah, upgrading might make sense. But otherwise, I don't think it makes any sense, because that's already a very good camera.
Yes, we already said the same thing about lenses. You really have to figure out why you want this new piece of gear, whether it's a camera or a lens. You just have to figure out why you need it, or if you need it at all. That's it.
Yeah. I want to go back to Craig's question.
Yeah.
It wasn't Cologne. I think he was asking, how do you all shoot your vlogs and training videos in urban settings and or the studio? Do you have a helper? For me, Craig, no. I'm a one-man crew. I do everything myself. I think that's true for Matti and Peter as well. I'm not sure about Jimmy. Jimmy, do you do everything yourself?
If it's vlog, yes, it's myself. And sometimes review videos, I have Tracy helping me. And yes, because when I have a model outside, we need to do a demo. It's safer to have someone man the camera than walking away from it. And also she's a great filmmaker, so it really helps.
Wow.
So pretty much for the rest of it is one-man crew most of all the time, actually.
We
Yeah.
sometimes work together with Peter because we live very, very close to each other. So we sometimes do with us
Makes
together.
things easier. It makes things easier than.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm one-man crew, obviously. Okay. When I think this was for Robin. If you shoot in continuous AF and use back button focus on the Olympus camera, once you've acquired focus, do you need to keep the button pressed? Actually, no, you don't. Once you let go of the CAF button, the lens stops focusing. So you're set. Is that right, Robin? I think.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. Kyung Young's always laughing at you because Matty's always saying G9, G9.
Well, to be fair, I like the G9 as well. I do have a very positive review on that camera. It is out there somewhere.
Okay. Can you guys talk more about your photography philosophy? What it means to you, how you approach it personally for your own projects and passion.
That's a tough one.
Deep.
Okay.
That should be easy, but it's a tough one.
Yeah.
Watch my photography 101.
Oh yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, we'll just go in the order everybody's on the screen, and I'll go last. So it'd be Robin, Matti, Peter, and and everybody over 50 can take a bathroom break. So I'll be right back.
Sure. So for philosophy, I think to me there is nothing too specific. There is nothing particular I want to do for my photography. It's more when I'm shooting for this is non-commercial, right? This personal photography. When I'm doing my personal projects, I'm shooting first for myself. I don't have any goals. I don't have any objectives. I don't plan to do like a grand exhibition, or I don't plan to publish a book. It's more like I go out and just enjoy photography and just shoot whatever that catches my attention and shoot whatever that I want to shoot. And pretty much that's it. I don't have anything deeper than that. I know some people that have like a long-term plan, they're working towards a goal, but not for me. For me, my photography is pretty much me enjoying the moment, and that's how I view photography as a lifestyle.
Your shutter therapy.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. Was it you, Matti, or me?
I think it's me next. Yeah,
All right,
okay.
go ahead.
I need a very good reason to make photos. I gotta have some kind of it's not enough just to have fun. Of course, I think if it's your hobby or something, you have to have fun. I think that's like the first thing. But I need to have some sort of like a better reason to make photos, and I think it's because of my past as a professional photographer. I've always had a good reason to shoot for my clients, and sometimes the reason is to shoot stills for my video. If I'm reviewing the gear, I need to use that piece of gear to make some test shots or whatever. But if it's something like real photography for art's sake, I need to have some sort of reason to, like a project or something. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to me to make pictures. I'm not happy if I go out and just start snapping away and start like having fun. It's not enough for me. But yeah, I hope that covers it.
Yeah,
Peter.
for me, it's quite not like Matti. It's more like Robin and I, because it's when I shoot for myself, it's totally opposite for what I do for clients, because then I need to do what they want and everything, and then I don't need a reason when I go out and shoot for myself, because that's just something to do with having fun, because that's what I always say, that you should have fun when you're making images. That's the most important thing, and as I said earlier in this live stream, that it's not only the images that I get, but it's also the experience or the thing that happens when I make images, and in that sense and usually when I have that kind of approach, I come up with something that's worth maybe publishing, or then I just get a even better feeling when I have gotten something that I saw just on the moment. And I think that's more or less my philosophy when I do it for myself.
Jimmy?
I'm actually more like Matti, actually. And when I do things that's non-commercial related, and I set goals and purpose for everything that I do. Not that I need to satisfy anything. It's purely enjoyment for myself as well. At the same time, like one of the things I'm doing in this trip, I'm in Hong Kong at the moment, is an ongoing documentary project that I've been working on since 2008. So it's a very long time project. So I'm not going to show anything until possibly for another 5 years, because that's when it finishes properly. And so it's a very long term thing, and but it's something that continue motivating me, because I want to see the changes and everything like that. And for me, photography is freezing times. That's how I see things. So I like to see different moments, different times. But this is my kind of documentary mindset that I have in my and I like to witness changes, and that's kind of my kind of photography.
Yeah,
I like your philosophy.
Yeah, no, that's pretty similar to mine. But let me make a note what Emily said from Micro for Nerds. That she said photography for me is pure enjoyment and community. Whatever level you're at, it's all about being creative and being proud of your own results, and then learning from one another. Always more to learn. And she says, Robin, that she loves the shutter therapy phrase. Do you sell T-shirts? Okay.
I will consider making them.
Yeah. I sell T-shirts.
Well, you already have the clients. Go for it.
Then I'll make all of you wear on live stream.
All right. And then someone's asking, where can you get the T-shirt Real Photographers? I guess it's Matti's shirt and Robin's wearing one. But I think it's Matti's shirt though, right?
It's
Yeah.
Matti's.
Yeah. Yeah.
I came up with this slogan long time ago, many years ago.
Let's see. How do you deal with shyness in street photography? Most of my attempts feature people walking away from me. Who's shy? You or the people? I guess it's you, right, Thomas?
I think people are different from country to country. In Malaysia, people are generally not shy, and it's not difficult to approach strangers. I get like about 90% hit rate. Maybe out of 10 people, only 1 or 2 will reject me. So it's different here.
Yeah.
I think in Southeast Asians, people are pretty much okay with their photographs being taken.
Wow, you're lucky, man. Here in the U.S., people are very skittish. They either don't want to be in the shot or, let me rephrase that. They don't want their picture taken, or they're trying to be polite and not get in the picture, right? So they see you with a camera and they just kind of stand there to wait for you to finish, and you're like, no, come walk. I want to get you in the picture, But yeah. Let's see.
And Maddie was in Kuala Lumpur as well, and we did some street shooting before. So yeah.
And
Okay.
it's the same. If I'm in KL and I do street photography, people are the same. So they are not so kind only to Robin. It happens to me too.
And then, was it Thomas who asked this question, was it? Yeah. And if you just, what's the worst thing that can happen if you ask someone if you can take their picture?
Yeah.
If they say no, then ask the next one. And once you get a few shots, then it'll be okay. And as it's been already mentioned, it might be different in different countries. So that's also true.
And, I think Jamie Windsor did a video on his first time out doing street photography with another guy named Pablo. So go to Jamie Windsor's channel and look for that specific video. He was very shy at first too, but then working with Pablo, he kind of learned to kind of get over it. So I thought that was a good video on street photography.
And there's one method that I used to do actually 10 years ago. I did a lot of this candid, not candid, but this street photography that I, ask of people that can I take your photograph. And how it usually worked is that I just, said, hey, you have a nice hat. Can I take a picture of you? And usually when you say something nice, they are like, oh, really? I have a nice hat. Then they want their picture taken. And then you can, just do it.
Right.
But it is really interesting, for example, in Malaysia, people can actually come up to you and ask if you take their picture, and it would never happen here, at least here in Finland. I don't think so.
Finns are really serious, as if you have watched my videos, probably you can figure that out.
Okay, Dave is asking, what is the best or easiest place to sell your pictures?
Do you mean stock photography or?
Yeah.
I guess it depends what kind of pictures it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, stock.
I would probably try Adobe Stock because they have a very good integration with Adobe software or the Photoshop and Premiere, so that might be
Okay.
something. Because I have 3 photographs there, and they've all been selling, but only 3.
Wow. Good to know. Yeah, I didn't know myself because I don't sell anything. I don't take good pictures, so who's gonna buy them?
Jimmy, is it sunrise there already?
I have no idea. I think so.
The sky is starting to light up in my part of the world.
Yeah, I think it is. Well, I'll probably continue to do another 10 minutes. I might have to say goodbye to all of you.
Oh.
Yeah, Okay, Jimmy, I'm sorry. Yeah, the live stream's going a couple hours. Time flies. But yeah, hey, thanks for coming in, Jimmy. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I know it was very short notice in your case, because the way the emails went back and forth. But as always, you're always welcome to come back. It was a pleasure having you. Did you have any last words or anything you want to say to all the viewers here?
keep shooting. Enjoy photography.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, Jimmy.
Great.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming in, buddy.
Well, bye
Thanks.
and have a good day, guys.
Cool.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye bye.
Take
See you later.
care.
Bye now. Yeah.
All right.
Still,
Oh, he's...
Sorry.
there he is.
Yeah, sorry. I hung up on myself.
yeah.
Okay. Let's
Glad
see.
to have you back.
Robin, when taking long exposures, the EVF goes black. Is there a way to prevent that from happening so that I can see the image while shooting?
Use live view. What was that? Lifetime.
Lifetime. Okay. Yeah.
But you need a tripod though for lifetime. Yeah.
Right. And you know, I have a video on lifetime, live composite. I'm sure they do as
Yeah.
well, but I have a really like detailed tutorial on it. Okay. Yeah, we're still live, Joe. I'm sorry. And there was a question here. Okay. Actually, as far as I can tell, there's a break here. Oh, no, Joe has a question. I have no experience with Flash, so I was wondering how could I get shots of bats in my garden this summer when they return? Ooh, that's a tough one.
Oh, interesting. Yeah,
But
that's
aren't they sensitive to flashlights? Like you're not supposed to flash them directly. It will hurt them, right?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, you might want
I'm
to
not-
check that out. Like whenever we go to, because we have caves where I come from. I'm from Borneo, so we have a lot of limestone caves, and specifically the rules state that no flash photography allowed, so that we don't disturb or harm the bats. So I'm not sure if you're supposed to use flash on the bats.
Oh, yeah, that sounds legit because I know here in the U.S. bats are a protected species, and so I could see where you know flash might be an issue, but I thought they were blind. Aren't bats
Yeah,
blind?
is a bat. Hey, yeah, true.
Right? So why would flash bother them?
Okay, it makes sense.
Maybe there's other things in the cave that, you know,
Yeah, maybe.
besides the bats themselves. But yeah, bats are blind. It's kind of ironic if they say use no flash.
Well, Claudia said bats aren't actually blind, so.
no comment from me on the bats.
I have no idea.
But they do have eyes, though. If you look at the bats, they do have eyes. So the eyes do see something, right?
Yeah, maybe they do.
Yeah. John's saying they see infrared.
Cool.
Any experience using the OMD in a photo booth? I don't get it.
Nope.
I don't. I know one Finnish photographer who's used that.
Oh, those are where you stand in a booth and offer to take people's pictures?
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
I haven't personally used, so I don't have any experience on that, but I know that it has been used.
Ah, okay. Liz is saying that bats, you can disturb bats using light. Okay, so they are sensitive.
They are.
Yeah. At what aperture? I'm gonna have to Google that one, man. In terms of, you know, if light affects them or not. At what aperture do you start seeing diffraction on M43? I don't remember if it was Sulanto blog who said it was better to stay closer to f5.6.
Well, in theory, already at f2.8. In theory. that's already in the diffraction. But I think it makes no sense to go beyond f5.6 unless you absolutely need all that depth of field. And in most cases, you get really a lot of depth of field already at f5.6.
Yeah.
But in most cases, you can't really see any serious effects until you go to f16 or something.
Yeah, and I think the resolution of your camera can make a slight difference too. If you have a very high resolution sensor, and as a matter of pixel pitch on our Micro Four Thirds, they're effectively very high resolution. So that's why I think the diffraction kicks in sooner.
It's just the physical size of the aperture.
Right. Right.
Also, having said that, like we know that diffraction can cause image softness, but I think to me, like for the photography that I do, if I need the depth of field, I will still stop down to f8 or f11. Say if I want to shoot a big plate of noodles or a big bowl of food, right? So you want to see everything clear and you're so close, then just stop down to f8 if you need it. But like Matti said, if you don't need that much depth of field, or if you're shooting from a distance, then f5.6 or even f4 is sufficient.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, when I do my real estate photography, I shoot at like f4, sometimes f5.6, and that lets me capture everything in focus, no matter how big the room is.
I'd like to correct what I said before. I think f2.8 is, in theory, it's the smallest, like sharp aperture, and beyond that, the diffraction starts to kick in. But I wouldn't worry about it really too much. I mean, use the aperture that you want to use or you need to use in whatever situation, and be happy.
Yeah. And Emily from Micro Four Nerds is making a good point that at higher apertures, you're going to see dust on your sensor. Which, yeah, is so true. I mean, oh my God, my EM5 Mark III, man, that thing, or my EM10 Mark II, has so many dust spots. I was taking pictures at f11, and it was just, they were unusable. So Outback is asking, how do we clean our sensors? Do you clean your own, or do you get them serviced?
I send them back to Olympus, Malaysia.
Yeah.
Yeah, service, but I actually haven't cleaned my Olympus cameras ever, so
Wow.
sensors, so I don't need it. I don't need to do that.
Yeah, same here. I'm just careful when I'm changing lenses, and I very seldom get any like dust or dirt on my sensor.
Okay. If it were for me, I clean it myself. I just buy those kits on Amazon. I've never cleaned my Olympus sensors ever, but after the other day, when I took some pictures at f11 on my EM10, that one needs to be cleaned, but my other cameras seem to be fine right now. Maddie's saying that Ray was asking about the diffraction, I think, because he has a 100 to 400 lens at f6.3 on the long end.
Yeah, but there are so many Micro Four Thirds lenses that are, 5.6 or f4, but don't worry about it too much. Just shoot wide open or whatever aperture you want to use, and be happy. John is saying something about the optical stabilizer on the 100 to 400, and of course, if you have a long telephoto lens, it's always the best to use the optical stabilizer if the lens has one, because the in-body stabilizer is not very effective with a long telephoto lenses.
That's true. You'll notice that when the in-body image stabilization, when you're zoomed all the way to 300, 400 millimeters, it's just too long, and the in-body image stabilization would have a harder time than if the lens already has it built in.
Yeah, there's not enough room in the inside of the camera body for the sensor to move far enough to stabilize a telephoto lens, a long telephoto lens.
I mean, that's something you'd have to, I think, test to actually say for sure, but I would imagine, you know, the lens has its own image stabilization. At those focal lengths would be better. A lot of talk about bats. Somebody said bats are disturbed by light.
Yeah. I thought so too. At least that's what people tell me.
Yeah,
right?
this is a good question. Hogdog is asking, don't most bodies correct for diffraction in their processing?
It's just sharpening. It's just sharpening. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not fixing diffraction. It's just kind of hiding
No.
it.
Yes.
Yeah, another request for Robin to do more walking tours, and also in Finland too. Huh.
No need for Senate Square. All right. Good to know.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the old, or that's the governmental center, and where's the university and the cathedral and the government buildings.
I've not been there. I want to see it.
Yeah.
Okay, so this person's asking, how many cameras do each of us have?
Too many.
Yeah.
I don't use them all, but I do have a lot of cameras
I mean,
over the years.
like a
I
dozen?
keep all my cameras though.
Okay, who has over 12 cameras? I know I do.
Not me.
No? How about you? Okay, so Peter and I are the have gas. So Maddie and Robin have less than 12, which is I don't believe you. If I came over to your house, I know I would find them. I mean, I'm talking compact cameras, film cameras, everything.
I don't have any film cameras.
Oh.
That's like in the past.
Yeah, I've got about.
There's a good suggestion. Please go on a photo walk together.
I've done it with Robin many times.
Yes.
Well, you guys have an open invitation to come to the U.S. and I'll go on a photo walk with you.
Awesome.
Anytime.
I definitely will come to Maryland the next time I go into the States. Don't know when that's going to be, but that's definitely something I want to do.
Yeah, anytime. I don't personally like to travel, which a lot of my viewers know, but you guys might not know that. I did it once. Like I went to Malaysia. Yeah. Sorry, Robin. I almost got killed there like 3 times. Anyway,
Emily said she has 4 micro four thirds, 1 full frame, and 1 collect film camera.
Okay, so
cameras.
6. Yeah, that's pretty modest. I don't know how you guys can do that without. I got 6 cameras on my desk right now. No, 7. EM5 Mark III, Pen F, EM10 Mark II, EM1 Mark II, TG5, Fuji XT3.
The Panasonic, right? Yeah.
No, the Panasonic, where is it? Oh, there it is, Panasonic, yeah, GX85, 7.
I knew it's somewhere there.
7. Then on this shelf next to my desk, I got my film cameras, my Maxim 4. Well, anyway, I won't bore you guys to death, but yeah. My Nikon N75, my Pentax K10, my Olympus OM2, my Olympus OM1, my Olympus OM2S. And then multiply that by 3 for the average number of lenses I have for each system.
Yeah.
I try not to collect any unnecessary like things around me.
Oh God, I don't know.
It makes me unhappy if I have too much stuff around me.
I wish I could do that. I can't give anything away. This is a tough question. I don't know if we can answer this one, but on Flash, occasionally using Flash on the camera leads to unpredictable results. Can you give some advice to better control of the Flash exposure indoors? Manual mode as for OCF, off-camera Flash. You know, with Flash, I'll just give you my quick answer is, you know, when you're shooting a manual Flash or off-camera Flash, it takes a couple of shots to get the exposure right sometimes. There's no way around it for me, you know, to get, if you're controlling a Flash manually, to get the exposure right the first time, especially if lighting conditions changes. But I don't know. What do you guys experience with Flash indoors? Who's?
I don't really use that much, but usually it works well if you just use TTL. It should be working okay. If it doesn't, then there must be some measurement problem. You might something like that. But usually, if I use Flash, it's TTL.
TTL, right?
Yeah.
So
somewhere bouncing it from somewhere, and it usually works okay. I haven't had any problems.
Because then I think, so Danella, if you don't have a radio trigger that's TTL compatible, because he's talking about for off-camera Flash, then you'd have to use a radio trigger that's TTL compatible to shoot in TTL. Because TTL is pretty reliable, but manual mode, it takes a couple of shots.
Yeah. You need to bracket the shots and then find out what's the right.
I mean, for me, if when I do real estate and I have to do manual, I can look at a room and know what power I need based on the Flash I have, because I've done it 1,000 times. But most situations, you're not in a controlled situation like that, because I can walk into a room, this room's about 15 by 20, okay, quarter power. I just know because I've done it so many times. But for the average person, that's not the case. You're going to have to take a few shots manually and see what works best.
But you learn it. Yeah, but you learn it very quickly. After you practice a little bit, then you get it right almost right away.
Yeah. Romans asks.
It is sunrise in Malaysia.
This is sunrise. Okay.
That's cool.
We'll wrap it up here soon. I'll just see if there's any last questions from anybody. Because Roman's asking, is anybody invited to the photo walk? You can.
Kuala Lumpur, please come.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going on a photo walk with one of my viewers next week, or February 2nd. They're flying in from somewhere, and they said, if they're going to be in my area. I said, yeah, let's go. Kuman's asking, do we make a living off photography? I do. I think we all do. We're all professional photographers.
Yes.
Yeah, no question, including Jimmy. Yeah, definitely. If you see the portfolios and stuff, no question. Rob's a camera hoarder. Yes. Peter, too. Not just Rob. I bet Peter has more cameras than me. I want your Ferrari Olympus camera.
Oh, yeah. That's one of my favorites. Never use it, though. We had a Finnish YouTube channel with Matti, which we kind of like. We're not doing any videos anymore. Then we, had a battle about it, and he used some old Nikon compact camera, and I had that. And the best thing about the camera is that when you turn it on, it makes a Ferrari sound.
Right.
Yeah, that's really cool.
That is so cool. You know, for people that don't know, Olympus made a camera in conjunction with Ferrari, and it looks like a, you know, carbon fiber, and it's fiery red color, and when you turn it on, it sounds like a Ferrari starting up or revving its engine. I don't know exactly, but it's pretty cool.
They actually made it in 2003 and 2004.
I've seen the camera. There's
Yes,
one
two
lying
different
around
ones.
in Olympus, Malaysia, when I was still working for them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
two different ones they have.
Robin, do you think the built-in flash for the EM10 Mark II is sufficient for most macro photography?
Depends on what kind of macro that you're doing and how close you are to your subject. If you are using the 30mm lens, the 30 f3.5, no. That lens you need to go really close and it will block the flash. Similarly with the 60, but if you're not doing too close up, like you have a distance of about maybe 20 to 30 centimeters from a subject, then it's fine. Just that if you go too close, then you might want to have an external flash or off-camera flash.
Okay. Jose is asking, if Olympus came to you, I assume this is for Matti, and they told you that your request will be their new camera, what would it be? I guess he's asking, what Olympus camera would you pick if you could get any one you wanted?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I want to answer that.
Okay. Now, the Ferrari camera, right?
Yeah, probably.
Definitely.
I like the sound is really, really cool.
Yeah. I seen them on eBay for outrageous prices. I mean,
Kent is suggesting that Peter and I organize a photo walk. Yeah, why not?
Oh,
Or
Yeah.
Stockholm, so.
Yeah.
nice.
yeah, just check their channel or go to their website or vlog. So if you guys want to hook up with them, I know they're open to that, because definitely I've seen on their contact page, about getting together for photo walks and things.
Yeah, Stockholm will be okay. It's very, very close.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me give you guys some last words, because we didn't get too many questions in the last round, and we'll just start in order again with Robin top left, then Matti, then Peter.
Well, for me it's easy. I will say the same thing I say at the end of every my video. Go out and take more photographs.
Okay.
Yeah. Are you finished, Robin?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
What do I say? Thanks, everyone. It's been really awesome to be in here tonight, and I hope to see you all in the next one.
All right.
And I want to thank Rob for setting this thing up, because it's been technically a big thing also, and of course thanks all the viewers if you're still here, and all the comments and questions, and remember to make images. It's all about photography and not that much about gear. Remember that.
Yeah.
Use the gear that you have and have fun with making images.
Well said.
Thank you. And Emily from Micro Four Nerds says, thanks so much, guys. It's been a blast. And I'll just leave with that.
Thanks, Emily, for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Emily, and thank all of you for being
Thanks.
here. And for my viewers, I have links to everything about all the guests today down in the show notes below. So if you want to check out their channel, their vlog, their portfolios, Instagram, etc., all of that is in the links below. And I guess we'll try and let's see. I'm so bad at wrapping up. Usually, you know why? Because usually the battery just dies, and the camera wraps up for me. But
Cut it.
I really, it's not a small thing that all of them are here together, because for Robin and you guys, the time zone is so different. Like, what time is it now, Robin, for you?
16 past 7 in the morning.
In the morning, right? So he's been hanging out with us since like 3 in the morning. And then Maddie and Peter, how about you guys?
Well, we started on Thursday and now it's Friday.
Yeah.
It's
So
15 past 1 in the morning.
I know,
Wow.
and for Jimmy, and you know, he was in Hong Kong, and I know he had to get up at like 4 in the morning to be with us. And my you know, so I have my gratitude for you guys all being able to come in and put out for my viewers. And if you want to have the live stream at a different time, do your own, okay? And I'll come. I'll show up at whatever time you want.
Fair enough.
But okay. Thanks again, and I'll wrap it up here.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
See you in the... Thanks for watching and bye for now. I just had to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.